What's up, folks? Welcome to another episode of the 10 Horse Monty YouTube channel. We're out here on the lake. It's beautiful out here. We got a little bit of a breeze. It is 88 to 90 degrees, but that little breeze makes a big deal. Bluebird skies, and I'm getting ready to jump on the Bluff City Outdoors Show with Tony Colombo and Mark. Mark is the owner of Bluff City. Tony's the master DJ, and you guys are going to hear a little bit of that. I'm going to do that out on the water. They asked me, I don't know, every once in a while to jump on the show, and it's a pretty great opportunity. I'll also do the weekly fishing report with that show. So if you haven't checked out the Bluff City Outdoors Show, it's in podcast form, and you can find it on the radio in the St. Louis area. I don't know the call numbers and all that, but the best way to do it is probably just check out the podcast. Give them a listen, man. Give them a listen. They're doing some good stuff up there in the big city, and I'm glad to be a part of that.
Hardwood lump charcoal is basically Missouri hardwoods. That's it. It's just basically pure carbon, which means you don't have to use as much of it when you grill. It means that it burns faster, it burns hotter, it gives you more control of the entire experience, and it's just a superior product across the board. So next time you're grilling, make sure you have a bag of Rockwood lump charcoal with you. And Rockwood is available at over 100 area stores. Find the closest way you and pick up some grilling tips and tricks all at rockwoodcharcoal.com. All right, Gabe Montgomery, 10 Horse Monty from the 10 Horse Monty YouTube channel is on the water as we speak, so he's doing better than anybody here in the studio is. Oh, yeah. Gabe, thanks as always for joining us. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. I'm glad I could jump on here and hang out with you guys. Yeah. It's nice out here. You know, I'm sitting over here in the shade, and I got a little bit of a breeze, and there's literally like 2 boats in the parking lot. So I've got the lake almost to myself. It's very peaceful. Not trying to rub it in or anything, but I am kind of trying to rub it in.
I'm gonna just instead of looking at it as rubbing it in, I'm just gonna live vicariously through you. I'm just going to try to see through your eyes right now, and it's perfect because Gabe is one of the contributors to our weekly fishing report, which we will be bringing to you in the next segment. So definitely keep it here for that. And also somebody, as I mentioned, Gabe, you know, we have a lot of guys that, like Mike Marfell is Lake of the Ozarks. I mean, he fishes other places, obviously, but that's his spot. That's his go-to. But I know you, just from your personal preference, but also with the YouTube channel, you cover a lot more bodies of water. You kind of bounce all over the place, lakes, rivers, all over the area. A lot in Illinois, but you know, throughout the bi-state area. And today you're out on Cedar Lake, correct? That's correct.
Yeah, Cedar Lake. It's a 1,800 acre lake near Carbondale, Illinois. It's a 10 horsepower limit lake. So there's no pleasure boats, no pontoons, no big, you know, cigarette boats running around, no giant wakes. You don't have to worry about any of that. It's super peaceful. And there's a lot of lakes over, and the reason I fish over in Illinois a lot is because I live really close to the Mississippi River in Missouri. So it's about an hour drive to almost all these lakes over here. And the same goes for Missouri. There's a few lakes that are about an hour away, but there's more to offer over here, you know, on the other side of the river for me personally, and I can bounce around. We've got Kinkaid, I've got Lake of Egypt, you got Crab Orchard, you got Devil's Kitchen, Little Grassy, Cedar Lake, Murfreesboro Lake. There's a bunch of strip pits up north. There's just a lot to offer over here. And on the Missouri side, I have Clearwater Lake and Wapapello, and then there's, you know, a few smaller lakes that are about 30 minutes from the house. So there's quite a bit to do. You got to drive about an hour to get to anywhere, but you know, an hour is not too terribly bad. It's not like I got to drive all the way to Lake of the Ozarks to get on the body of water. So I just kind of deal with it.
What are some of the you know, we don't want to give away everybody's hidden jewel or anything like that, but you know, I know guys, myself included, are always looking for a new place to go, a new lake to check out, or whatever it may be. What are some of the lakes in the area that come to your mind, top of mind, in either state, Missouri or Illinois, that are, you know, an hour or less around the, you know, metro St. Louis area that people can jump to, that maybe not a lot of people know about, that are some good lakes that people can check out?
Well, you know, I'm not sure how far Pinckneyville is from where you're at, but that is, that's
over an hour. Yeah,
a little over an hour. Okay, and I know Mark's talked about this before, but those strip pits up there, that Pyramid State Park, has a lot to offer. There's multiple lakes up there. I believe there's like 50 lakes. Now, some of them are really small and they're just portage in. You got to drag your kayak in or fish off the bank, but there's I want to say there's 5 or 6 that have legitimate concrete ramps in a parking lot, and then there's just as many that have gravel ramps. And you can go over there and spend the whole day over there. If they're not biting in one lake, you can put your boat back on the trailer or throw your kayak back in the bed of your truck and move on to the next one. You can, you know, you can fish several in a day, and usually one of them is going to be fishing a little bit better than the other. And it's a pretty peaceful experience. There's not a lot of traffic. There's no wake, so there's nobody even running around. And if you're a kayak fisherman, I mean, it's definitely the place to be. And they're pretty accessible from the bank too. So if you don't have a boat and you're, you know, stuck with bank fishing, you can definitely park near the dam or whatever and make a little walk and catch you some fish. They're stocked pretty well too. There's some really good fish over there.
Mark, what about, like, what do you hear from your, like, when the same question, when people are kind of looking for a place to go, what are some of the lakes that you think of, or whatever, bodies of water that you think of that maybe don't get the attention or reputation that they should, that are great places?
It's kind of like the pyramid down there. I can't remember the name of it. There's another state-owned group of strip pits that's south, down by New Athens. And that's another one that, same type thing, you know, small boats, kayaks, good fishing. And I know a lot of people that actually go down, because I used to fish as a kid down to the DuQuoin City Reservoir down there. And it's not a huge lake, you know, 80, 90 acres maybe, but it was always really good fishing, especially for panfish. And same thing there, you just put a small boat in there or fish. It was very accessible from the bank.
Yeah.
I think that might be the Peabody River King. Is that what you're thinking of, Mark?
Yep, Peabody River King. That's the group out by Nathan.
There you go. Nice. So, what's the experience like right now out there, Gabe? What are you looking for? What is the bite? Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it, you know, what? Tell us some of the things that you're experiencing this time of year, and I mean literally like right now, because you're on the water.
Well, it's definitely hot out here because the air temperature is like 88, almost 90 degrees.
Hotter too, yeah.
Yeah, I've only been out here, I've been fishing for about 30 minutes. So what I did was I kind of idled around, which is typically what I do. I'm kind of looking for the bait this time of the year. A lot of the fish have pulled up out of the grass because the spawn is over, and these lakes do have grass. I mentioned grass, you know, lakes like Lake of the Ozarks and Table Rock, you don't have grass to hold fish. So there's multiple variables on a lake that has grass. There's always going to be fish up shallow in the grass. There's going to be some that are out off the grass, a deeper grass line, and then there's going to be some that are truly offshore fish that are on brush piles out off the end of points. They're looking for hard spots, anything that just holds their attention. And there's a lot of them that just kind of roam around and they just follow bait fish. They can literally be out in the middle of the lake relating to nothing but schools of bait. So I typically do a little bit of idling and just kind of see if I can figure out where the bait is at. If I'm not seeing a lot of bait out in open water, I can almost assume, I hate using the word assume, but I can probably, I got a good idea that there might be bait relating to the grass. So then I may start my approach, you know, fishing in the grass. But if I'm seeing bait out deeper, I'm gonna figure out how deep that bait is. If it's seems like it's focused on, you know, in that 10-foot zone or 12-foot zone or whatever, I'm gonna start looking for structure that's in that 10 to 12-foot zone, whether it be brush piles, points that break off, little ledges, humps, anything like that that I can focus on. And that's kind of what I did. I've been doing a little live scoping. I got this live scope last year, and it's very addictive. It can get out of hand really quick. It's fun watching fish, just throwing at them. And that's kind of what I did. I knew you guys were going to call, so I didn't get too far into my day. And I was just kind of plinking a little worm out here and trying to catch some fish. I did catch one small fish, and I've been throwing it a lot of fish. And, you know, if anybody that's listening to this has live scope, you know that you definitely don't catch all the fish that you see. But it's a good tool for knowing you're around fish. It gives you confidence to keep throwing at fish. So that's kind of what I've been up to the last 30 minutes or so.
Yeah, I can't think of anything that we've talked about recently that's had a bigger impact, like innovation, technology, whatever. You know, sometimes it's a particular lure, and sometimes it's the electronics. It seems like the electronics have come a long way over just the last couple of years. There's been a big jump in the advancement.
That's really,
yeah. You see
it the last 2, 3, 4 years. I mean, that's been a game changer. Changes how people fish. You know, like I said, they can now see a fish, target it, try to catch it. And
and I feel like it's being more accepted. You know, like something like this, like especially when it's a piece of technology that costs a little bit of money. That there's always that group that's like, oh, this is cheating. You know, like this is, you know, you're buying your way into success, and that's not the way it's supposed to be. And you know, you always kind of have that resistance, and there's always that debate on, you know, there's two sides of that argument always. But I feel like we've over the last couple of years, when we first saw this coming in, the resistance to it was stronger than it is now. There's more acceptance. There's more
without it.
Yeah.
People just realize it's just another tool. You know, I mean, you still got to go catch them.
Yeah.
You know, and while you're spending time looking at that fish, well, maybe somebody over there is catching other fish that are maybe higher, you know, bigger.
Would you agree with that assessment, Gabe, about the technology, that it's had a massive impact and it's starting to be more universally accepted recently? Am I right, or am I wrong in what you?
Yeah, I think you're right. There's been a lot more people that have got it. I mean, it's still got a little controversy to it. You've got YouTubers like Randy Blockett, who's
that'll never go away. Like,
no,
there's always going to be your traditionalist. There'll always be that group that just doesn't agree with that.
Right.
But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no! I was going to say it's still a little controversial. Here's a little short funny story. I do a live stream. Jonathan and I do a live stream on Monday nights at 8 o'clock Central on my YouTube channel, and we did a stream a couple weeks ago, and Del Colvin, who is a guide on Bull Shoals Lake, was our guest, and we had a really nice conversation. Our streams are long; they're an hour and a half, 2 hours. It's long format, but we got to talking about live scope, and we dove in pretty deep on it. Not too long, 10 minutes or so. And one of the first comments I got on the video was, man, the live stream was really nice until you guys started bloviating on live scope. So there's always those people that don't like it.
There's always that.
But most people have come to accept it. And like you said, it's a tool. It's just a tool. It just shows you what's going on. You got to figure out how to work it into your game. If you don't know how to fish without it, you're not going to be that good of a fisherman. You got to learn how to, you still got to learn the roots and the core and the basic stuff that, you know, most of us have learned as a kid. It's changed the game though. It has definitely changed the game. So there's always, like you said, there's always going to be people that don't like any technology. You know, people still want to, when the computer came out, there's people that still like the typewriter, and you name it. There's people that's still going to try to hold on to that old stuff. But it's changing a little bit.
I want to get into the fishing report here in just a minute, but before we get there, one more question before we make that transition. Right now, with us this time of year, we're getting into the hotter weather. Water temperatures obviously getting up to as hot as they're gonna get, or they get into that area now. We're post spawn, all that kind of stuff. If you gave her out on the water, you're going out and you're struggling a little bit, having a hard time finding them. What is your go-to this time of year right now? Your go-to one or two lures, bait, setup, whatever it may be, when you're struggling, that you have the most confidence in. Like if I'm gonna find them, if I'm gonna catch them, this is how I'm gonna catch them.
You know, one of the best ways to catch a fish in the summertime is just with a 7-inch plastic worm. The old power bait worm is hard to beat on a 1/4 ounce weight with a 3/0 hook, a 15-pound test, and like a 7-foot medium heavy rod. Yeah, it's
we said available at Bluff City Outdoors Show.
of course, yeah, plugged in Bluff City, exactly, man. But that bait has been around forever, and it still works. You can rig it Texas rig, you can put it on a shaky head. There's a lot of ways to rig it, and they all work. And that's if something's on the bottom, and if I feel like the fish are kind of up off the bottom and suspended. If I'm seeing a lot of activity, surface activity, a small swim bait is hard to beat. Just like a 3.3 Kitech or a 3.5-inch Hawgz Custom Baits swim bait on a little 1/4 ounce ball head, just plinging it around. You can throw that on a spinning rod. Yeah, it's hard to beat. I mean, it looks like a little shad out there. It's just those two baits. You got one that you can cast and reel in, then you got one that you can drag around. You can't go wrong with those.
Awesome. Well, you can get great insight, great fishing content all the time on the 10 Horse Monty YouTube channel. Gabe Montgomery is with us. He's going to stick around and be a part of the fishing report as well. And I say it almost every week, Gabe. between our podcast, the Bluff City Outdoors Show podcast, and the 10 Horse Monty YouTube channel, you can get a whole lot of fishing information downloaded on a regular basis by subscribing to those two things, Bluff City Outdoors Show podcast and the 10 Horse Monty YouTube channel. For people that haven't checked out the YouTube channel before, just give yourself a quick little plug before we get into the fishing report.
Yeah, so I've been trying to drop videos on Wednesdays and Fridays, and it's kind of slowed down a little bit. I've kind of got back on track, but we have been doing Monday night live streams at 8 o'clock. So video drops are Wednesday and Friday. 10 Horse Monty Fishing on YouTube, and then Gabe Montgomery Fishing, or 10 Horse Monty on Facebook, and then 10 Horse Monty 6 on Instagram. That's all my socials.
Definitely cannot recommend it enough. All right, we are going to bring you this week's fishing report in just a moment, so don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Bluff City Outdoors Show on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Okay. Good stuff, Gabe. Thanks so much. You good to stick around for another couple minutes?
Oh yeah, 100%, man. Yeah, I'm good. I got the spot lock on. I'm just floating around.
Welcome back to the Bluff City Outdoors Show on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Tony Colombo, producer Leah, and Mark McMurray, owner of Bluff City Outdoors, in studio with you. And on the phone with us is Gabe Montgomery, a.k.a. the 10 Horse Monty, the 10 Horse Monty YouTube channel, also one of our regular contributors to our fishing report. And it is indeed that time of the week. So Gabe will be here to give it to his portion of it live for once, which is very, very nice. And Mark, why don't you go ahead and kick us off?
Okay, now we'll get started. First off, we'll go to Truman Lake. Jordan Lear, he's a guide and a buddy out there. Crappie are good. Fish 10 to 25 feet of water, 14 feet down. Fish the standing timber on the main lake flats and the brush piles. Jigs and minnows are both working. Catfish, good. Drifting the main lake flats and humps, 10 to 20 feet with fresh shad, live or cut. Bass, good. Fish the main lake points and brush piles. Half-ounce football jigs around the brush piles, 8 to 20 feet of water. Square-bill crankbaits, 10-inch plastic worms, Texas rig. And brush hogs are working. Topwater baits are late in the evening. Spooks, whopper ploppers, and buzz baits. Walleye are good. Fish the main lake humps and points, crawler harnesses, and trolling crankbaits working on the shallow flats. Throwing a 3-inch pearl and chartreuse sliders on a quarter-ounce head is also working on the humps. White bass and hybrids are fair. Fish the main lake humps and the flats with live shad on a Carolina rig. 13 to 25 feet of water. Rattle traps are also working. Topwater bite has been decent early morning and late evening with our spooks. Turn out Mark Twain, Jason Kaiser, Mark Twain Fishing Intel. Bass are biting topwater early in the morning for a popwater or a spook. They're also going out to main lake points as well, with some on the secondary points. Target 10 to 15 feet. Range right now, soft plastic, shaky heads, 10-inch worms are starting to play. Crappie bites tough right now for bigger fish. The crappie are schooled up on the brush and pole timber in 10 to 20 feet of water. Minnows and soft plastics are working for the most part. You have to catch a bunch of smaller crappie in the group to try to catch 1 or 2 decent eaters. So you just got to keep moving. Catfish, getting reports catfish bites pretty good in the North Fork area on trout lines and bank poles. Cut shad and perch seem to be the bait of choice. And we're running out to Carlisle. Eric Moore, he's on the pro staff. Carlisle lake level is 445.15. Water temp is 75 degrees. Catfish are actively feeding heavy on multiple baits, not picky at all right now. They're being caught with many tactics from bank fishing to drifting to jugging in great numbers. White bass are not on fire yet. There are some nice ones being caught, just not in the large numbers. Crappie are spotty, and there's still some carrying eggs, but they're biting seem to be wanting to keep moving. We're out to Wren, Fred Mooney. Lake level has held steady since last week, still 407.2. Crappie bite is hot. The water temps are hitting 80. Dark color baits are more successful this week. In a few days, I tipped the minnow, helped pick up more finicky slabs. Catfish bite is as good as you will see all year. Local rivers and lakes, Eric Maury again. Blue cat are in the spawn, and if you can find them, they are definitely feeding. Largemouth bass are active and biting almost anything. Bluegill are done spawning in most places, as well as the water temperature up in the mid-70s, and the fish are very active. River catfishing with Jason Snyderhand. St. Louis gauge 2.37 is starting to fall. Surface temps is 78. Catfish are hitting skipjack, and says fishing is starting to pick up. Shelbyville out to Mad England, lake level 60, 600.08, water temp 74 degrees, clarity 12 to 18 inches. Crappie fishing on Lake Shelbyville is excellent right now, 1 to 10 feet of water. The fish are 3 to 4 feet. minnows or plastics. It needs to be moving. Over to you, Gabe, for Southern Illinois.
Mark, that was impressive. That was a mouthful. You got a lot to cover.
He's good at this.
Getting better at it.
I'm telling you, he's good.
Jeez.
Good. Go ahead, Gabe.
All right, I'll start with Kinkaid Lake. So Kinkaid right now is going to be high 70s, maybe low 80s, and the clarity is going to be 5 to 8 foot. We've had very little rain, so all these lakes over here in Southern Illinois are very, very clear. Starting out in the morning, topwater is going to always be a good play. Something walking like a small Zara spook, even a chug bug. Slide up on those points. Those fish are going to be up there early. After that sun gets up, you're going to have to move out a little bit deeper, target that outside grass edge, and also a frog. Don't forget about the frog. These lakes are starting to get some grass mats on them. You can slide back in any of those coves, any of the main lake stuff, and throw your favorite popping frog. I like something white or something black pretty much 90% of the time, other than around the spawn. I'll throw an orange in the mix, but a black and white frog with some 50-pound braid and a stiff rod worked over those grass mats will get you some bites. Move over to Lake of Egypt. Same conditions basically. The water temps are going to be high 70s and it's going to be clear, 5 to 7 foot, maybe 8 foot visibility. All the lakes are about 1 foot to 1.5 foot low due to the lack of the rain. I would be looking for suspended fish on Egypt. You're going to see a lot of schooling activity. That lake's notorious for having schooling activity, so you can just keep your eyes peeled and look around visually for birds, or you're going to see fish breaking the surface. When you do find those fish, fire a topwater in there, fire a small swim bait. Also look for brush piles off the points and stuff, and any kind of soft plastic bait, Texas rigged. A shaky head, you cannot go wrong with a shaky head. If you're just going to go over there and throw one thing, tie you on a small shaky head on a spin rod, 8-pound test, just go down the bank, stay out deep, cover some water, and you will catch some fish. Crab Orchard Lake, 1 to 3 foot of visibility. Water temperature is going to be probably low 80s because that is a shallow water lake. That lake is always shallow, it's always dirty, and it's always a little bit warmer than any other lake in the area. And those fish stay shallow in that lake. The dissolved oxygen content is better up shallow, and they always seem to be up shallow. Covering water with a crankbait of some sort, square bill, just bounce it off of everything you see. White spinnerbait's always good. Buzzbait early in the morning, and if you want to slow down, flip in a jig and some kind of creature bait. Look for main lake stuff, just any kind of hard cover. That lake's got a lot of good fish in it, gets a lot of pressure, but if you just keep your head down and cover water, you're going to catch a few fish. As far as crappie, the same thing. They're going to be out there in like 8 and 12, always looking for outside grass lines. And any kind of wood. Not so much in Crab Orchard because it doesn't have grass, but Kinkaid and Lake of Egypt have grass to offer, so those fish are going to be setting up on the brush anytime now. You're just going to have to go out there and look. Always fish the wind. The wind is your friend. You cannot go wrong with the wind. That's all I got for you.
And we will wrap it up with our buddy Mike Marfell. Lake of the Ozarks is starting to become a full-blown summer pattern. Deep brush in 15 to 20 feet with a jig or a 10-inch Texas rigged worm. Funny how that just keeps...
Same stuff keeps
I
popping up.
know. Every week, you know, like it just goes to show you, as much as things change, you know, there's always those reliable traditions and reliable, you know, things that you can count on. He goes on, keep an eye on the water flow generation, and when they start to pull water, move to the main lake points and bluff ends. It's Lake of the Ozarks, so always a good dock bite, swimming a jig down the sides of the big commercial docks or a square-billed crankbait. Top water early and late during low light conditions, or if overcast, or better yet, raining. Flopper or walking style baits working best. Vary the speed of the retrieve until you find what they want. And Mike says that he is at Table Rock for Oak Outdoors Solo Elite 100. Bite is good. And that is where I'll leave it, because some of the guys I fish with listen to the podcast. And they're pretty savvy, and I'm kidding. So I'll reveal the goods next week.
Good call, man. Good call.
Yeah, be safe out there on the water. Be kind to your fellow anglers. And as always, wear that life jacket and kill switch when the big motor is on. Great stuff there from Mike and from Gabe, and big thanks to everybody who contributes to the fishing report on a weekly basis. And he's telling the truth. I know a lot of guys that tune in and don't miss the fishing report every single week. Again, you can always subscribe to our podcast, Bluff City Outdoors Show podcast, on basically every podcast platform. You can also just get it off the Bluff City Outdoors Facebook page, and that way you never miss anything that happens here on the show. Of course, we are on at 11 a.m. every Saturday, and right now also noon on Sundays here on News Talk STL. Gabe, we're almost out of time. I did want to quickly ask you, because you touched on it there in the fishing report about the water levels. And Mark and I also talked about this a little bit earlier in the show. It's definitely low. We're in these drought conditions. But are the water levels making fishing worse, or is it just different? You just need to be aware of some, it's a different, a different environment when the water's low like this. But does it affect the fishing positively or negatively?
I would say if you're on a lake that's got some places that are a little bit sketchy to run, you're gonna have to pay attention. Most of these lakes over here don't. Some of them do have some standing timber that would be safe to run over, and the water drops a foot or foot and a half. You might bump your skag on them, so you got to kind of pay attention to that. But as far as actual fishing, not so much. The fish might just pull out a little bit deeper. It can actually help the frog bite, like I mentioned earlier, because that grass, that milfoil and that coontail that's growing up, as that water falls, it starts to top out because it doesn't have water over the top of it, and then you get that mat. So you can punch, throw a frog. It kind of opens up a few more opportunities, and it's just, I don't say that it hurts anything. It just makes it slightly different, and you just have to make some daily adjustments and get out there and cast around and see what you find.
And also, before we go, Mark, one more good thing to keep in mind. Not only can you, of course, go out to Bluff City Outdoors right now and stock up the tackle box, because it's a great time to be out on the water and get out there and go fishing. But also, don't forget, this is also the time of year to start doing prep for the bow season. And no better place to do so than Bluff City Outdoors.
Yeah, like I said, we actually we have made our second full-time bow hire, bow tech back there. Seth Bourne, he's been working part-time. He agreed to come on full-time. So he'll be starting in 2 weeks full-time. So welcome aboard, Seth. And yeah, I mean, and we noticed that the traffic in the shop started picking up this week.
Yeah, that's right around the corner. It doesn't feel like it, but it is.
It is. I mean, we're only a couple months out from the Catfish Classic.
I know.
I mean, it's just
crazy.
Yeah, it is. It comes so fast.
Yep. So make sure you are prepared. Now's the time to get out there and prepare for bow season out at Bluff City Outdoors. Also, don't forget about the archery range. You want to shoot. It's open every single day. So is the Techno Hunt System. Leagues starting up in a couple weeks as well out there at Bluff City Outdoors. So lots to do, and of course, always the go-to place to stock up your tackle box for your next trip out on the water. Bluff City Outdoors in Alton, Illinois, about a mile east of Fast Eddie's. Follow Bluff City on Facebook and also at bluffcityoutdoors.com. And as I mentioned, our podcast, and Gabe, of course, also the 10 Horse Monty YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed there to Gabe's channel. And Gabe, appreciate your time as always this afternoon, and we'll let you hang up the phone and get back out there and focus on the water. Really appreciate your time this afternoon.
Yeah, anytime, man. It's good to talk with you guys, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And yeah, I can't recommend enough the 10 Horse Monty YouTube channel. Make sure you are checking that out on a regular basis, because the content is across the board. The Monday Night Live, the long form interview style content, on the water, watching the guys, watching Gabe and Mike and, fish, and watching, that experience. And then also the before and after, the prep before a tournament, talking about things that went right and wrong after a tournament. All of that great content can be found on the 10 Horse Monty YouTube channel. So make sure you are checking it out. All right, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Bluff City Outdoors Show. For producer Leah and Mark McMurray, I'm Tony Colombo. Thank you so much for listening to us here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Hey, buddy. Thanks, Gabe.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Anytime, man. You guys have a good evening. All right. Bye.
Yeah, back at you. Thanks.